What's good, y'all? It is Monday morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you're at. So you know what that means. That means it is time for the Role Player Podcast live, and we are global and still presented to you by Swish Cultures. I am Jordan Taylor, still alongside my guys, two of my favorite people in the world, man. We got the Stanford gentleman and the co-founder of Swish Cultures, the one and only Anthony Goods, an SEC legend, and now ESPN SEC Network college basketball analyst, and just everything that is old guru, the one and only Richard Hendrix, man. Look, so we're going to get into it, man. We got a lot of fun for you today, but before we do, make sure you hit subscribe and the like button below. Follow us on all socials at Role Player Media for the Role Player Podcast and at Swish Cultures for Swish. But y'all know that one already. For those that haven't been here before, we got 4 quarters and an intermission worth of content coming at you. And we starting in the L as always, where it's still a little quiet in the news unless Gilbert Arenas is making headlines with something outrageous. But because of that, I was on IG, fellas, and I saw a question pop up, and it was, is Steph Curry a scorer or is he a shooter? And Goods, you might have been both. So let me know what you think. You might have to start us off with that one.
Man, I mean, I think Steph Curry is I think he's definitely a scorer. I don't think we can deny his ability to put the ball in the basket. When you think about basketball in general, I think like everybody has to shoot the ball. And I think that even guys that we would consider quote unquote scorers, they were typically good shooters. You know what I mean? I don't know of too many scores that were only layup makers. I mean, shooting the ball, whether it be from 3 or from the inside of the arc, is essential. And I think once you add the ability to shoot the 3 off the catch, off the dribble, any way that you want it, and we're not going to act like he doesn't finish at the rim. We all know about, his floater game and things of that nature. So, I mean, we should probably just pull up his heat diagram and his shot chart and weigh that against other scores in the league. But I don't think it's up for debate, man. Steph is a scorer that just so happens to be the best shooter that we've seen.
Listen, I think obviously you have to give him respect to one of the best players to ever play the game. The shooting ability is unmatched, but I don't know if I would classify him as a scorer over a shooter, because I think all of his scoring attributes are based off of his shooting ability. When I look at scores traditionally in the game, they're going to have a post-up game. They're going to have a mid-range game. They can have an isolation elbow game. So many things that they can get a bucket. They can get a bucket and draw fouls and be physical and get to the free throw line at will. His shooting ability is so elite and his skill set is so unique that you have to give him the credit as being a scorer. But every move is based on the fact that you have to respect his deep range shot. So when I look at the other scorers historically in the game and what they're able to do, the aerial assault, the physicality, the low post play, the mid-range game, elbow ISOs, he doesn't have that in his game. But his shooting is so unique and so elite that it is what it is. But he's getting buckets, and he's the greatest to ever play at that position when it comes to shooting.
I'm glad y'all are on the other side, because I'm gonna sit right on the fence with this one. Like I got to quick. I got a shout out. Yeah, Rich, go ahead, go ahead, Rich. Get your shots in real quick. Go ahead.
We know you're on the fence. We just wanted to just hear what you got.
Hey, I respect you not shooting back for the old comment, man. That's growth. Good for you. You growing up, man. I'm proud of you. But listen, man, I think Steph is. He's a scorer. I would, if I got to pick a side, he's a scorer because he scores the ball effectively. However, to Rich's point, he's not Carmelo Anthony. He's not Michael Jordan in terms of skill set, and that's what we know as scorers. But if Steph Curry would have came first in the progression of basketball, would your opinion of what a scorer is been different, as opposed to if Michael Jordan at that type of scorer would have came second? That's my biggest concern, or my biggest question with these. Like, can you say that he's as great? Because you obviously, I don't know if you can give Steph the ball and say, hey, go get me. You can say, go get me a bucket, but it's going to be very, he's going to run around. He's going to come off a ball screen. You can't can you throw Steph the ball and say, play ISO and be effective?
Okay, but all right, here's the question though. So A lot of people compare Steph and Trey's game. Would you say Trey is considered more of a scorer than Steph?
I would stop you right there, and I'd say I think that's the worst comparison. I think it's racist. I think it's only because they're both light-skinned dudes who shoot logo threes. I don't think Steph and Trey play that alike. I really don't. I think that Trey is more of a point guard, whereas Steph is truly a combo.
Do you think that's system or do you think that's skill set?
I think that skill set. Trey is, I think, not to say Steph can't pass, but Trey is a top 5-10 passer in the league. And him off the pick and roll, there's not a lot of guys, maybe Luka, Harden. Like Steph's not that in the pick and roll. He's effective in the pick and roll because of his ability to shoot the ball.
Right.
But Trey is effective in the pick and roll however you want it. Like you're going to play drop, you're going to be at the level, you're going to make the right read.
As scores, where does Steph and Trey stack up compared to each other? Do you think they're on the same level?
I think Trey's a better scorer. Let me rephrase. I think should be classified as more of a scorer based off his skill set.
Okay.
You know, I feel what you're saying, Jay. It's one of those deals where when you look at Trae Young and what he's able to do, when I watch him, it's hard for me to figure out which comes first, his shooting ability or his drive ability. You know, when you're talking about Steph Curry, the game is set up from the shot first. Trae, he seems to be a little bit more 50-50. But as far as scoring is concerned, they're not even Kyrie Irving. You know, when I look at talking about abilities of being a scorer, Kyrie can do so many other things in the facet of the game. You know, but I mean, it's not to take away from Steph Curry because obviously he's brilliant. I mean, this guy is like he's like Mozart in the game with what he's doing out there with his unique style of play. I don't think he could have come first because obviously there was no three-point line, so the game had to be established from the inside out. But I mean, if you look at Trey's game and Steph's game, I think you were spot on. I don't think they're close to the same. I think Steph's game is predicated on the outside shot first. Trae is 50-50. You don't know if he's driving, if he's facilitating, or he's going to shoot it off the deep ball. It's hard to kind of figure out which one sets up the other.
I also think Trae needs the ball in his hand. Well, he's much better with the ball. Steph is, I don't know if we've seen anybody like Steph without the ball in their hands. Maybe Rip Hamilton, guys like, but I wouldn't say they're as good as Steph, but, you know, they're obviously great off that floppy action and all that. But I don't know. That's a hard one. I was going back and forth with Archie Goodwin, friend of the pod, man, and he was saying he was adamant that Steph was a scorer, and if you didn't classify Steph as a scorer, you don't know ball, man. That's what he said on his Instagram. So I was just thinking about it, and I was like, he made some good points. At the end of the day, you're a scorer if you put the ball in the hole, right or not?
By definition. If you score points, that's what you are.
But is that so? We are classifying Steph as a scorer simply because, is there a certain prerequisite to how you put the ball in the hole?
See, look, you know, I'm gonna take a page out of Rich's book. You young fellas, man, like, you know, you gotta get bored with success. You know, if you can score the basketball doing the same move, the same shot, then score the basketball doing the same move and the same shot. Nah, man, I don't think Steph is a super dynamic scorer, especially in comparison to some of the other scorers we've seen in the NBA. But he's a scorer. I mean, he gets hot like nobody we've ever seen, and on the biggest stages, and he's done it, you know, time after time. So, you know, I'm looking at it by definition because I am a Stanford man. I'm not sure what they taught you out in, you know, in Madison or Tuscaloosa, but Steph's a scorer, man.
Hey, man, San Francisco, the Bay is on the decline, man. You might want to get out.
Yeah,
I don't know what's going on out there, man. You might want to stop claiming Stanford. I don't know what's going on,
man.
Man.
We need to go to WCC, man.
Yeah, sure. We gotta do
get our swagger back.
Y'all gonna keep taking L's flying across the country like that too for games. Y'all about to be getting smacked by them ACC schools, man. Y'all ain't trying to go to Durham on a Wednesday night after a 4-hour flight. That's gonna be ugly for y'all. That's going to be ugly. But let's stay on topic, man. Real quick, we're going to come back to this next week because we ain't going to have enough time. So this is going to be a preview for next week's show in this section. Who had a better prime? James Harden Allen Iverson, Dwayne Wade, or Russell Westbrook? Goods, what you think?
Oh, this is a very, 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 very tough. I can't go against James Harden, honestly. James Harden. What James Harden was doing, especially with the attention that he was getting. Who was I seeing talking about the attention James was getting? He was getting triple teamed and double teamed, and they were saying they had schemes where they would throw a player behind him just so he couldn't step back.
Rubio, I think it was Minnesota,
yeah.
I believe, that did that.
San Antonio too.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't think I could ever go against James Harden because he literally got whatever he wanted, and kind of like we were talking about in the Trae Young, Steph Curry discussion, like he could hurt you passing the ball too. And then we're talking about a pick and roll player. I don't know that we saw a more dangerous pick and roll player during that time that James Harden was going crazy in Houston. But I'm open to hear other arguments, but yeah, y'all gonna have to leave your arguments in the comments. I'm hoping to read a dissertation. I'm willing to extend the pod and read a dissertation if someone has it, but for somebody else, but I can't see it not being Harden.
And the question had to be was who had the best in their prime between Allen Iverson, James Harden, Dwayne Wade, and Russell Westbrook. I mean, for me, guys, listen, I know this is going to be the one that seems a little bit different, but I'm going to take Dwayne Wade. I think Dwayne Wade had the best prime. When you talk about him coming into the league on a team and they went automatically to the playoffs, and then in the next couple of years, he was winning a championship. And what he did in that 2006 run is not respected enough. People look at what Shaq came over to do and think he was the one that carried them to the finals, but it was what DWade did. And then when he was moving into the Olympic Games, leading the team in scoring, if I'm not mistaken, and also averaging around 30 points a game as a leading scorer in the NBA, Dwayne Wade and what he was doing on the ground, his ability to just blow by people and get to the aerial assault at the same height as all of these guys was just far more dynamic. I think the prime for him winning championships, for me, I'm going to have to take the nod over the other four guys.
That's wrong. That's wrong, man. I'm going to tell you why. Because the first thing I heard you say was winning championships. And when D-Wade was scoring third, first of all, Shaq was the runner-up for MVP the first year he got to Miami. And yeah, D-Wade took over that finals, one of the greatest finals performances of all time. But Shaquille O'Neal was the most dominant player in the NBA, arguably, from 98 to 2005. So without Shaq, he's still not winning that title. D-Wade was great, and his teams didn't win when he was scoring, like I said. James Harden was the best player in the NBA, second best player in the NBA from 2015 to 2020, in part because KD and Steph Curry was hurt. And the stuff he was doing, he didn't win a championship, but go back and look at who they lost to. They lost to the Warriors, the Spurs, Warriors, Spurs, Warriors, Lakers. 6 years in a row in the middle of his prime. That's why he wasn't winning championships. And people talking about he didn't get it done in the playoffs. Yeah, because he was losing to the best players of all time. And no disrespect, this is a Show Love podcast, but we talk about guys he was playing with. Like he got PJ Tucker paid. He got Trevor. He got Ryan Anderson paid. He got Clint Capella paid. He got all them dudes paid, and he had them. The Rockets was a 1 seed at times. They was always in contention. And I don't know if anybody else in the NBA at the time could have done what Harden was doing with that group outside of LeBron James. And I don't think that I'm saying it as an opinion. I think it's a fact. But listen, we're going to come back to that one. That's all the time we got for on that one right now. Rich, I know you got something else to say. You're going to have to save it for next week. You know what I'm saying?
You got to give love for the old head. I'm talking about AI. I mean, all that stuff you just said about Harden, AI did the exact same thing at a much smaller stature.
AI didn't do that for the same.
They got other people played. He only had Mutombo on the team running alongside him. I mean, to not give him love and just give that it's James Harden. To me, I got to go with the champion and go with what Wade was doing because I thought it was spectacular. He didn't get the love that he deserved. And he was on trajectory to definitely be one in the top 10 players of all time until the injuries came.
And if we still on the subject for a hot second, I think Russell Westbrook is the reason that Jordan Taylor is going to have to start chasing all these little point guards around in Europe because he kind of revolutionized the point guard position, and because of him, you got a lot of NBA teams in search of rebounding, multi-positional defender type of point guards. The unconventional point guard is now into play. So, yeah, man, just had to throw that out there. You got to get some more Cali love on here.
The question is, you from Corona, man. The question was
Brown Town, baby.
Yeah, right. The question was who had the best prime, not who had the most impact. But I hear what you're saying, man. But we moving on to the second quarter, and with the second quarter, man, we going overseas with it. Couple of topics for us, but the much anticipated one we gonna start with. I know everybody's excited. Everybody on this podcast is excited to talk about this one, because Juan Tuscano-Anderson has been running its. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, we're going to go with Juan Tuscano-Anderson has been running his mouth, man. He came out and said the G League, Jamal got to get it together back there. The G League is the second best league in the world, and then went on to say that, they don't dream of playing in the Euro League or the ACB. They dream of playing in the NBA while getting smacked by Malaga. So we gotta discuss this, man. This is the hottest topic, I think, in basketball, maybe right now, at least among the Twitter trolls and the social media trolls, man. Is the G League the second best league in the world? Who wants to start? I'll leave it open. Who want to start?
No, it's not. I think that if we're gonna consider, let's say, every two-way player being down at the exact same time, for a week, like, maybe it could possibly be the second best league in the world for a week. But I think over the course of a whole season, and when we look at the whole picture, the G League it's just not. And I think the reason is because you have two-way guys, but outside of the two-way guys, I don't know who's on an Exhibit 10 that is a EuroLeague starting level player. I don't know who's on Exhibit 10 that's a EuroLeague starting level player. So, and
Scotty Hobson.
Huh?
Scotty Hobson was.
Right now. I'm talking about right now. We're talking about right now. We ain't talking about 3 years ago, whatever it is. I'm talking about right now. I don't know who's on an Exhibit 10 that is a EuroLeague starting level player. And I think that when you look at even just salaries, I think that, the salaries of a two-way and the EuroLeague salary, buys guys out of those Exhibit 10s. So,
right. For our viewers, explain a little bit about what Exhibit 10 is. The difference between a Exhibit 10 and a two-way contract in the D League.
Yeah, so two-way contract. Two-way contract is obviously you're going to be spending time with the senior team as well as down in the G League. I believe the two ways are around $575K for the season if you make it the entire season. When you're on Exhibit 10, basically you can go to training camp or whatnot, but they're going to cut you. You're going to be assigned to their G League affiliate, and typically you're walking away, somewhere around the low six-figure range, or somewhere in the six-figure range, the low six-figure range in the 100,000. So when we're talking about the disparity in salaries, I think that's kind of the main thing here. So I think Juan Tuscano-Anderson, obviously he's a spirited individual. And I just don't think that he's right. And I think what we saw in that game, if you go back and watch that game of Unicaja against the G League United, I think you'll see that, regardless of talent, man for man, I think that Unicaja is just a more disciplined team. And yes, the G League United hasn't been together that long, but I've been to plenty of G League games, and I don't think any G League team is as disciplined on the defensive end as pretty much any Spanish team in the ACB. So I think that'll always give you a chance, especially playing with European rules to keep the game close. But yeah, man, I don't see it being the second best league.
No, it's definitely not the second best league. Now, if you want to say, does it have the second best level of athletes in one league, or maybe individual skill players, and yeah, you can have a justification for that. But listen, Paul Hewitt was coaching this G League United team. This is a guy who's been to a Final Four in a national championship game with Georgia Tech in 2004. He's a well-known coach, but he only had about 10 days to even prepare his team to even coach and play this game against a historic franchise from a Spanish league who's known to have their team organized and disciplined and playing really, really well. But as far as the league being the second best league, it's not even close. It's not as good as the Euro League. It's not as good as the Euro Cup, the Spanish ACB League, just as a domestic league within itself. So if you talk about it from top to bottom, yeah, you're going to have players who are definitely good. But the collection of people in the G League just in general is a league of people that don't want to be there. If you've ever played in that league, the nature of it is that no one wants to be there. You want to get out of there. If you're a player, a coach, a referee, an administrator, it doesn't matter. So the agendas that everyone has on a team setting is not indicative of the league to even be competitive against teams and organizations that are trying to build something special abroad. So I think Juan Tuscano-Anderson tried to motivate people. He tried to definitely say something. But when he stepped out there and said that, just like his speech in that game, he said a little bit too much, and they had to pay the price.
Yeah, I think we need to go ahead and cut to that. We got to go ahead and cut to that spirited speech, and we can, we can talk about that as a whole.
Not to play fucking ACB. Our dream is not to play fucking Euro League. Our dream is to play in the fucking National Basketball Association, nigga. To make millions and fucking hundreds of millions of dollars. This shit, what they doing to us is embarrassing. It's unacceptable. We gotta change the tide now.
That's what we taking it. Listen, man, when y'all went to go play against players and are playing leagues, you said that the Turkish league was the best league. Why? Right? Like that's why was the Turkish league considered to be the best league?
At a certain point in time, because they had the most talent.
Because you had the most talent, right? So as a player, you're not looking. Everything y'all are saying, you're talking about the structure of the league and the people that are putting the time and effort into creating the incentives in the league, which has nothing to do with what players think about. So I have to go ahead and assume that Juan Tuscano-Anderson was talking about a collection of talent in a league, not necessarily the structure. So obviously, I still think the EuroLeague is probably the second best in terms of talent. Sure. After that, G League probably has more talent than Euro Cup. Probably top to bottom, probably has more talent than Champions League. Probably has more talent than the ACB, specifically outside the EuroLeague teams. So I don't think he was too far off. When you look at it, the Euro, or you look at the G League, man, you looking at dudes. Xavier Moon just got a job coming from the G League. He got a job in Zenit, one of the highest paying teams in Europe. Carlik Jones just came from the G League, got one of the highest paying jobs
Carson
in Europe.
Edwards led the G League in scoring, came to Fenner.
Carson
butt cheeks.
Yeah, he was. But
is this your king? Is this your king?
No. So you're saying that Carson Edwards was butt cheek because he wasn't capable? Because that again goes back to the structure.
No, but I'm saying, look, when we were having this discussion a long time ago, it was like, oh, he's not acclimated. He got to get used to Europe. But he's been out here for a minute. I don't know that Carson is a starting guard on every EuroLeague team.
From a talent perspective or from a mentality perspective?
Period.
Because that
basketball player.
From a talent perspective?
Listen,
from a talent perspective.
Don't talk like Carson is Marcus Howard.
I'm not talking like, but Teo Maledon's about to start on a EuroLeague team.
But like that's what I'm saying. I'm saying maybe Carson can start on Bayern, but I don't think Carson is starting on 75% of the EuroLeague teams.
Can Imani Bates start on a EuroLeague team? From a talent perspective, not can he go fit into the EuroLeague system? Is Imani Bates?
What are we talking about from a talent perspective? It's like, can he play within a system?
The point is that the G League has created an environment that doesn't allow it to be the second best league in the world. The rules of it, they mess up the entire league, right? But again, Juan Tuscano-Anderson, I don't think is talking about the structure of the league. If you incentivize the players in the G League and you put guys like Paul Hewitt, as Rich said, and these coaches, and you actually incentivize winning as opposed to, oh, I'm trying to get the hell up out of here, I think the G League would look very, very different. So for Juan Tuscano-Anderson to say that, again, I'm assuming he's talking about the talent. And if that's the case, maybe my assumption is wrong. I don't think it's the craziest thing to say. And you have to go back and say and examine the fact that the NBA is really letting down the players in the G League. Why don't you incentivize these dudes differently? Because then if the structure is there and you make these dudes play a certain way, I don't think what he's saying is all that crazy. It's not on the players to create that environment. It's on the executives, it's on the coaches. So again, yes, it's not the second best league in the world. However, it does have the collection of talent is greater than what the Euro Cup had last year.
Yeah, the collection of talent is better, but this is not an individual one-on-one game. This is a synergistic game where 5 people have to come together.
Okay. Then synergistically, don't take one example either of a team that's been together for 2 weeks against a championship caliber team in Europe that's been together for 2 years.
No, there's other levels of teams that don't even have that type of level of being together for 2 years, and they can play better ball. Listen, I played in that D League. There's
no synergy in the G League. There's no synergy.
Jay,
there is no synergy.
You take that G League United team and you place them in the ACB. Where do they finish? Do they make the playoffs?
If they got an entire year to play together,
I'm saying they start training camp like everybody else. If they start training camp like everybody else, do they make the playoffs?
And they would definitely have a chance to make the playoffs in the ACB.
Do they make the playoffs? Yes or no?
Would they win the ACB? Probably not.
Okay,
I don't, like I said, they don't have.
Baskonia,
but yeah, I think they
playoffs last year. Baskonia missed the playoffs last year. Are they better than Baskonia?
And who was the A seed in the playoffs? No, you don't. That's not how it works. Who was the A seed in the ACB?
It was Valencia. Who was fighting for that last spot? It was Valencia. I'm gonna waste time trying to figure it out, but it was like I think it was between Valencia, Baskonia. I can't remember the other team. But
Gran Canaria in it.
Oh, they was in it. I can't remember. But yeah, we're froze right now. But yeah, I don't know if they're making the I don't know if they're making I don't know if they're making the playoffs.
Why to act like those dudes, the talent gap between them and
I'm just saying, like if you look at a lot of the top
crazy.
G League talent outside of the two-way guys,
but that's part of the
G
League. You can't do that.
Huh?
You can't do that. That's like saying you can't just take out guys that are part of a league.
It's an NBA contract.
But they play in the G League.
Okay, so if a guy gets drafted, he gets sent down to the G for warm-up games. So Clay going to play some warm-up games in the G League. He's part of the G League.
And I was one of those guys. I was one of those guys. That's what happened last season in the G League Finals. When you talk about the main Red Claws, they end up playing against the OKC Blue, who loaded up with all of the NBA players to send down for the last couple.
But two-way is literally a G League contract by nature that allowed NBA rosters to pull up from their G League team. That's how it started.
They always had ability to pull up from the G League team.
But this was a way to specialize. Right, but this was a way to get more days from certain guys and create a designation for certain guys to be up there and get the experience. Yes or no? Like to say those are bona fide NBA contracts is a little crazy. Like, and again, either way, this all goes to my point that the G League creates no continuity and no synergy. Those dudes, two-way guys are effective. Most two-way guys are effective.
We got to move on.
You want to know why? Hold on. No, we don't got. You want to know why the G League is not? It's because a two-way contract you can get cut and it's not guaranteed. Correct. Okay, so how you gonna say that when that's not true?
You can get waived. You can get waived from an NBA contract too.
Jay. You can get cut and have
a guarantee from any contract.
I understand that most of those guys are not considered bona fide NBA players. Correct or incorrect?
What G League two-way guys?
Guys that don't make it past January historically are not considered bona fide NBA contracts. The non-guaranteed contracts.
Anybody that gets cut at
January don't do that.
Anybody that gets cut in January is not
the partial guarantees are not considered bona fide NBA players.
But it's still NBA contracts. You got guys at the end of the bench that have partially guarantees. Are they not NBA players? They're G League players. They never touch the G League, but they're G League players. What system?
Most of those guys do touch the G League. Most of those guys spend a good amount of time in the G League
because they have a system of fluidity.
I understand that, but many of them do. I would more than the non-guaranteed guys more do than don't. I don't understand.
Hey, before we move on, let's play. Jamal, can you play that clip one more time? We want to get a quick take of talking about what Juan Tuscano-Anderson had to say to his team, and while having to pose this quick question, because I have a spiel about this.
It's not to play fucking ACB.
Really,
our dream is not to play fucking Euro League. Our dream is to play in the fucking National Basketball Association, nigga, to make millions and fucking hundreds of millions of dollars. This shit, what they doing to us is embarrassing. It's unacceptable. We gotta change the tide now.
He meant embarrassing. He meant that.
That's Juan Tuscano-Anderson going off on the G League United game in the FIBA Intercontinental Champions Cup and Cup Final. My take on it is this. I think the speech that you see there, it sounds good. It's a good soundbite, but player leadership is something that's extremely overrated. There's no one that in that huddle was listening to what he had to say and found that motivating to see if they could come back in the game. You don't control the clock. The coach is the one that's putting you into the game. You're not going to run the plays in an order that's going to help someone else. Everybody has their own agenda. I think that's a speech that he could have saved for himself, and moving forward, he'll probably find out that the hundreds of millions of dollars that those guys think they're going to get is never going to come. So the player leadership to me is something that you can keep those speeches.
Yeah. So you're saying player leadership is entirely overrated? It's unnecessary or just overrated?
Totally. This
unnecessary
is
or just overrated?
This is not Remember the Titans. This is not Tim Tebow rallying up a football team. In basketball, when you try to huddle up everybody and try to say something to them, they're not listening. It's 12 different guys who have their own agendas. They're not paying any attention to any one player in basketball who's telling you, hey, let's get it together, let's go. Because the first thing on a basketball court a player does is say, man, what are you doing in the game? And that's the first thing they do. So it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. Players need to stop it. It doesn't make a difference.
Got a point, Mr. Hendrix.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know if you say so, but long story short, man, the G League is not better than the ACB or the Euro Cup. Apparently, the European players, there's more talent and all that. I mean, listen, again, incentivizing is everything, like you just said. You pretty much just said that again. But we'll move on. Mr. Good said we got to move on. We're going to go to culture and entertainment. Rudy Gobert was in the ring hitting mitts, man. So what was he trying to do? He trying to get in shape, protecting himself for next season, or just trying to harden his image? Goods, what you think about that one, man?
Man, I hope he's trying to get in shape. You know what I mean? I don't see it. I don't think it's in the French culture or nature to even get that aggressive to the point where he's gonna have to protect himself. But I wouldn't be surprised if this makes him a little more aggressive. I've seen my first year out, I was hurt and I got into the boxing gym and I hit mitts for like a year before I finally sparred. And you get a lot of false confidence hitting mitts, but once those mitts start hitting back, it's a completely different ball game. But I don't know what Rudy's out here doing or why he posted it, but maybe this is a subliminal shot at Draymond. I don't know. What y'all think?
Man, no, absolutely not. This was all conditioning. And I don't blame the man to free his mind from what took place in the Olympics when he was benched for Gershon Yabusele. He needs to get away from the game, decompress a little bit, keep his body in shape, and hopefully this is something that can psychologically make him stronger for the next season. He had a strong season, defensive player of the year in the NBA, but this is not something that's going to correlate to more toughness, maybe more mental toughness, definitely the conditioning cardio. But I don't see this as something that he's trying to change an image at all. I don't even think he can change an image. I think it is what he is. Great defensive player and a good decision for him to get away from the game and do something that's going to keep him in shape and get him ready and be fresh when it comes to his cardiovascular and physical health moving forward in the next season.
He can change his image, man. He can change his image by staying on the court in the fourth quarter when the game's on the line. Change his image by finishing around the rim when there's Derek Lively's down there and being a presence and he could definitely change his image. Can do all that. I don't know if boxing's going to do it, but you're never too late to reinvent yourself, man. You create your own story these days. It's social media in this day and age. You pretty much make up anything about yourself. Like I'm going to tell people that I was Chris Paul about 20 years from now, and I'm sure some people will believe it. So you can always recreate yourself and create your own image, man. Like, Rudy Gobert, though, shout out to him. I don't know if boxing's the move, but we'll see. We'll see.
We got a comment. Do y'all think Rudy Gobert from Tot? Shout out to Tot for leaving a comment. Do y'all think Rudy Gobert is overrated or underappreciated?
I think he's overrated. Personally, I definitely understand and respect the defensive aspect. When you talk about someone with 7'2", extremely athletic and long, at some point you have to see a little bit more offensive polish to his game and things that he can add, as only just being a rim runner and a rim finisher. Defensively, he is impactful, which I do think is really good. But I don't think that for the contract that he has, you want to see a little bit more offensive skills. So I think when you get the scrutiny that he catches from so many people that talk about his game, it's going to be from the standpoint that you're 7'2" and athletic. And most people who don't have that type of size are going to say you're doing what you're supposed to be doing at that size. So you would like to see more offensive skill from him. And I don't think that's I do think that's a valid criticism of his game. I would like to see him add a little bit more touch, a little bit more polish, a go-to move on the block, because it can be the physicality offensively playing alongside Karl Anthony Towns that the Timberwolves need. And with that core that they have, it can definitely get them over the hump after having a really good season.
Well, I think that core that they have is probably got an expiration date. However, I think he's probably underappreciated from a fan standpoint, because I don't think fans do pay attention. Everywhere he goes, he has an immediate impact on team defense, and he does raise the level. Obviously not underappreciated from a executive standpoint and a financial, and probably a bit overrated from a financial standpoint. Probably not worth that $200 million. However, you know what? A market is a market, and you're worth what people are willing to pay. So it's tough to say, but yeah, I think he's kind of both, honestly.
I think that's a good take, man. I ain't got nothing more to add to that.
How can you be a guy, if you look at your national team and probably the highest paid guy on that national team, and they're benching you for the entire Olympics? I mean, there's definitely holes in your game that you need to address. I don't know if that French national team had any other people with a contract of that magnitude. When you're getting paid that much, the expectations are going to be much higher on you. So you got to view him as he might not be rated as where he is. He could be perceived as overrated.
Well, I think, he gets benched in on his club team, on his NBA team as well at times in big moments. But go back to your point about player leadership doesn't matter. I think it does matter, and I think it definitely matters when you are doing what you're supposed to be doing. I think to his credit, say what you will about him, I think he does have an effect on guys willing. Anthony Edwards, before he got there, wasn't really he played defense kind of when he wanted to. He wasn't super engaged defensively. I don't know if it's the effect of Rudy Gobert or not, but it seems that he's been more engaged defensively since Rudy Gobert has been there, and the Timberwolves have reaped the benefits of it. Same as the Jazz when he was there. I thought he got a bad rap for, Quinn Snyder had a great system, but it was hinged around pretty much putting access around Rudy Gobert. And when every other perimeter defender got exposed, it just from a public perception, it was Rudy who was really the weakness. When in reality, it was really they just didn't have no perimeter defenders. And I think you're kind of seeing how he's reaping the benefits of having perimeter defenders in Minnesota. So I think, he's definitely, you can't get benched, but at the same time, he does do a lot of good things. So sometimes you just get played off the floor.
Yeah, that's a fact.
Let's move on. He needs to do a little more. All right, big man. My bad. Let's move on to the third quarter, man. We got my favorite section. It's the Role Player Media Role Player of the Week. And this week, it is Jalen Hands with a 33-point performance versus the big boys, Real Madrid, who Good says is one of the best teams of all time in EuroLeague.
Last season they were one of the best teams.
Oh, my fault, player.
Carry on.
I don't want to take nobody out of context.
Carry on.
What's the
I gotta step
importance
outside. I gotta go outside. You know what I mean? You could go hide in Europe. I gotta go outside and deal with all this.
No, I understand. What's the importance of having a big game like this in the preseason? Rich, what you think?
I mean, it's good for your confidence. I do think that when you move forward, it's going to be a little bit different when teams start to look at what you can do and they have to start loading up to slow you down. I mean, now he's a talented and shifty player. He got off against a really good team, so that's good for him in his career because teams that see him do that against Real Madrid will definitely take note of that. But it's a long season in Europe. When you start talking about the multiple practices a day, the physical play, and if you can keep that type of level of scoring input up, I mean, you are a bad man. I can't see that happening. I think it'll be a challenge for him, but he's off to a great start.
Yeah, I mean, I think this would have been great for him if this was May or June even. But to do this in the preseason, I mean, there's going to be a lot of basketball, a lot of time, a lot of other big performances by other players for this preseason game to mean much. Like I think you said it perfectly. It's great for his confidence, and I think it's good for him on that team to kind of let them know, like, yo, like I'm the man. The ball needs to be in my hands at least in the early part of this season. So I think it's a great game for him, and I think that I'm happy for him. He's obviously a great kid, another Southern Cali kid, man. And I want the best for him, but I think in the grand scheme of things, especially if we're talking about whatever opportunities may come next year, I don't think that this is going to weigh much into that at all. It's just too early in the season, but great confidence boost.
You know what that also shows? That's the off-season skill work. When somebody's in the lab and you've been playing all season long working on your game, when you come back and you get back in the 5-on-5 section, that rim is just huge. It's like shooting the ball in the ocean. You don't think anybody can stop you in a phone booth on the one-on-one situation because you look at these highlights. These are deep trays. These are individual on island. Take my man, mano a mano. And that's what happens when you're working on your skill in the offseason. The biggest problem that happens to Americans when they move into Europe and they move forward is as the games go forward, and if you start losing games, the coach is going to make some adjustments. He's going to take the ball out of your hands. He's going to change it up to get other people involved, and he's going to try to spread the love. And that's the worst thing in the world because you see a guy like this and what he can do, the talent he has. But it's going to be hard because if the team hits a tough stretch, they're going to blame him, and they're going to try to figure out a way to spread the ball around to everybody else. And he's not going to be able to continue to go in his bag like that. So I hope they get off to the winning ways with this new club this season.
I actually disagree with that. I think starting like that gives you grace a little bit. If you're starting like this, like 30 balls, I think that affords you a little grace when you do hit a rough patch in the season. I think it's kind of like, I think it's almost like an understood thing. If you come out hot, we've seen what you're doing. Obviously, the rough patch can't last too long, but I think it's all right. We've seen it. We know what you could do. Where is it at? We'll give you a little time to get back right, and we still rocking with you. You still our guy, as opposed to starting off cold and then trying to find your rhythm. I think that's much worse. So I think Europe has changed a little bit in that sense where, if he's naturally going to hit a little bit of a wall. It happens to everybody. He's going to have a couple bad shooting nights, whatever. But, doing this early, I think means a lot just to Goods' point of like, oh, I'm here now. Like this is my team. I've been doing it. So if I get a little off, make sure you come back to me. And I think that's something that's changed since your time in Europe, Rich, to be honest.
My time? What you mean?
What you got done in 2018? I'm trying to say you old.
Oh, my God. Am I?
Yeah, you old, dog. It's over. It's all right. You had a good run, though. One of the greatest runs in American history, to be honest with you, man.
And I think just to close out your point, I think the most important thing of that is if the game was close, I don't have the final score here, but if that game was close, you also bought yourself some real estate with the coach, because we all know that these coaches from these smaller teams, especially going against these EuroLeague teams, they want to perform well. It's a badge on their, it's a badge on their collar. So, I think that him playing well, and let's just say that game was close. Yeah, he's definitely going to have a little more leeway than other players because of what he did, from in the coach's eyes.
Whatever has happened over the past couple of years in Europe, I maybe call it like the Shane Larkin, the Marcus Howard effect. Like there's no replacing the guy that can go get, I don't know if there ever was though. You can't replace a guy who can go get 30. And I think that's just more of a prevalent thing in Europe now. We had Keith Langford on the podcast, and Tyrese Rice we've had on the podcast before, where, maybe those guys I don't think were as prevalent as they are now. It almost seems like every good team has a guy that's just going to go out, and you look at Euro Cup level, even the Deer Heafy for Paris at London Lions, it was Matt Morgan, so on and so forth.
Third best league in the world.
Euro Cup, look, man, I'm negotiating against myself because I played in it. But if you talk about the bottom of Euro Cup last year, and I love the Euro Cup,
butt cheeks.
Man, it was not great. It was not the Euro Cup that you played in, Rich. Even the top of Euro Cup, But
Russia Euro Cup was way different.
Crazy, and I would even say when the Turkish dollar had a little bit more power as well. So.
The coaches in Europe, when they get a hold of it, I think that's the most difficult thing. When they start getting a hold of the players and putting the clamps on them, they will hold the players back. That's the unfortunate thing. I think when you're on smaller clubs, that you mentioned, talking about a Mike James, Keith Langford, other teams, when they got to lean on that guy to carry them, then you can really see what an American who has a big time skill set can do. But if you got a little bit more balance and depth on your team, the coaches are going to use that, and they're going to hold you back to a degree.
Let me add this. Before we move on. We got a couple minutes real quick. Is that being that guy, is that detrimental to your career, especially if you're a young guy in America, or a young guy from America, you come over to a Varese or whatever it is, and you got to be the man. We've had this conversation somewhat before, and you got to go score, but then you get caught up to the big boy team. And you get caught up to a Maccabi or whatever. Is that how difficult is that adjustment to make, and is playing that role detrimental to your career?
I think it's detrimental if you want to talk about that you don't make the adjustment. When you come over to Europe, you better be a big time scorer or a rebounder, a double threat, whatever it is, because you're going to start off on a lower level team and they want to see what you can do. But as they start to transfer to bigger clubs and better teams, you're going to have to be able to adapt and play within a role. If you're still trying to get buckets on a high-level team and it's clear, then you could find yourself getting blackballed by coaches and say that he only wants to come in and score. He doesn't want to do the little things, and he's a person that disrupts the team. So, it's a challenge, and it's a tightrope you have to walk. So you better come over when you immediately get there and start getting buckets. But once you pigeonhole yourself as just a scorer, then you might cut off opportunities to go to higher level leagues, and you find yourself on leagues that are not as prestigious, that don't pay as well, but you're still leading the league in scoring.
Well said. Goods, you got anything on that? Are you straight? You look like
I ain't got nothing on
well
it,
said.
Rich went to church on Sunday, man. He been preaching. I like what's coming out of Alabama today, man.
Hey, it's always great. My bad. It's always great things coming out of the South. But here, listen, man. I mean, it's a lot of experience. I mean, we've all been there. I came over my first years coming into Europe, and you were the leading scorer on the team, one of the leading rebounders in the league, and then you go from a smaller budget team that's fighting to be in the playoffs to a contender. And you got to come in and you have to play your job for the short amount of minutes you have. And if you show attitude, if you show that you don't like that role, if you show that you're only trying to score buckets, some reason they're going to figure out a way, it seems like, to say that you might be messing up the flow of the team. So you got to have some adaptability really quickly into showing that you can play so many ways. That's why I feel like the problem is with those G League players, as you mentioned, struggle coming over, because it's not about you getting buckets. It's about you playing in the team frame and winning within the structure.
Beautifully said, man. Let's get into Coach's Corner, Goods, real quick. We low on time, so we're going to be a little shorter on Coach's Corner today, but break it down for us, man.
Man, Coach's Corner, as I'm sure a lot of people saw last or a few weeks ago, the Philippines League, when they started back up, they introduced the 4-point line And my question to y'all is this something that the NBA or Europe should adapt?
No.
The 4-point line in 5-on-5 basketball.
No.
Obviously, we've seen it on 3-on-3, but and what impact do you think a 4-point line would have on the game?
No. Please don't do it. Please don't do it. I'm all for entertainment. They doing too much. I think it's great for the
4-point Selly. Watch the 4-point Selly, though. The 4-point Selly, though.
Nah, brother. Hell no, bro. Do not bring in the 4-point play, man. We don't have to keep chase. Basketball is a great sport. I love watching it. You don't have to add all the gimmicky stuff in there. As Alan Durham right there, man. I almost actually had a slid out to that to you right there. But listen, Scottie Hobson, a teammate of Rich and I hit a back-to-back 4-point plays, and it was tough. It was dope to watch, honestly. And shout out Scottie. I love Scottie. But
should be in the
big
NBA.
time. Should have been in the NBA, man. Should have been all-star in the NBA if you ask me, man. Like Scottie's one of the most talented. One of the most. I got to play on the team in high school with DeMarcus Cousins, Lance Stevenson, and Scottie Hobson. And Scottie, to me, was the most talented player on the floor. So just to highlight what he was, man. But yeah, just no. We don't even got it. I'm not gonna get into it. No, hell no.
No, I mean, look, they already shoot too many threes anyways. The last thing we need is a step back shooting forward. Hey, maybe in an all-star game or something like that, and put a situation in if the game gets tight or you're behind or in so many minutes left in the game, you can start shooting 4-pointers. That might be interesting to see. But I don't want to see that just in the regular game. I mean, they need to be shooting and getting a little bit higher quality shots closer to the basket. I think that's where the real beauty in the game was, because you could see the creativity. You start throwing the 4-point shot, and you're going to have a lot of guys who don't have any business out there shooting deep threes, which just creates more bad basketball.
Man, this is it right here. This is the comment right here, because this is 100% accurate, man. Dude's gonna be out there doing that shit that Carlton did to Will in the Fresh Prince episode. So no.
It's gonna improve the G League though, because they'll get cut, they'll get sit down, they're gonna hang around a little bit, and then Jordan Taylor and Juan Toscano will,
That's going to turn the G League. That's going to turn the G League into semi-pro, man. They might as well put Jackie Moon out there. That's going to make the G League even worse. But all right, man. Am I doing it again or what? You doing it?
No. You can go on and sit back, man. It's paycheck, rain check. Somebody's paycheck is taking a rain check. And today's feature is Mr. John Henson, who officially announced his retirement, even though he hasn't played in a minute. And he felt like Richard Hendricks wasn't doing his job, so now he's stepping into media. As we know, John Henson comes from the University of North Carolina, and as we've seen, a lot of Dukies and a lot of North Carolina alumni are in the media space. So this is directed at Mr. Hendricks himself, our resident media scholar. Do the Dukies and the North Carolina alumni have an unfair advantage in the media space, because it seems like they're monopolizing a lot of these positions fairly early on? Joel Berry, a lot of these guys just creeping in there, man. Let me know.
Well, I mean, listen, for many people, I went to the University of Alabama, but I came down to the University of Alabama and decided to go there over North Carolina. So one thing I can remember saying, Roy Williams, when he was recruiting me, he said, you can achieve as many of the goals you want when you go to Alabama, but it will be much easier if you come to Carolina. And I will say, now that I'm in the media space and you are calling games and work on the ESPN and SEC network, there's something in your mind that makes you do think that if you played with a school that had this big fan base, this national championship relevancy and whatnot, and stature, that you might be able to skip the line when it comes to the craft of the skill of the job within being a play-by-play or maybe an analyst or a studio analyst or whatever it may be. But definitely it does come into play. I mean, if I am a media entity, I'm definitely going to look at the players that have bigger backings with fan base, or maybe just better, more popular players when they play. You look at players on the football side, Tim Tebow, RG3, they jump right into the booth. Or most recently, Tom Brady coming off of the Super Bowl, and he goes right to, the front row seat when it comes to calling these games. So definitely they get the jump line, but at the same time, you get to prove it. But there's so many games that's on nowadays. Everybody has enough microphones.
Networks too. Networks too.
Yeah, I mean, like, so more power to the guy. If he wants to do the media thing, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of work, and it keeps him around the game. But I don't think he's taking any seats away from anybody else. There's plenty of them out there. So I hope he enjoys his retirement and transition into another career.
I don't know. Jordan Taylor's a little shiesty. You know what I mean? You one argument away. Jordan Taylor might slide John up in here, man. He ain't got no loyalty over there, man.
Nah, never that. I do think loyalty is fake. I actually had this conversation the other day, but I would never get Rich up out of here, man. That's my guy, especially not for John Henson, man. Rich is the SEC legend, and the SEC has more earning power right now than the ACC and all that. So I think that will play a part. I actually don't think that Duke or I know who else they got. Joe Barry. Who else? John Henson.
Oh, they got Brendan Haywood. He's
JJ Redick.
Yeah, but JJ. Yeah, that's
JJ.
I think when you talk of like Brendan Haywood and JJ, like those dudes played a long time in the NBA. Even John had a good NBA career, so I think that makes it a little different. I don't think Joe Barry. I don't think that he has skipped any steps or done anything differently than someone like Rich has. Maybe I'm not that closely versed in it. I look at a guy like Robbie Hummel, who's probably at the top of the media game. And John signed with the Field of 68, right? Is that where he ended? I think he's with the Field of 68 and Sirius XM. So it's a college basketball network, and I'm sure he'll do great at it. It would be dope to have him on our show at some point, but. I don't think that the Dukies or anything like that have an unfair advantage. I don't think that those are the people necessary. It's still about relationships, and I don't think those are necessarily the people running the media spaces. I could be dead wrong, but I think the Big Ten and their media deal is going to have a huge impact on college media at least. So I think people from Michigan State and Wisconsin and Ohio State will be able to skip some steps too.
I mean, honestly, it's enough love. I mean, there's over 10,000 games that are broadcast. There's enough people to get a chance to be on the microphone. I only hope that for him that he got all of the basketball out of his system. You see a lot of these players who are stepping away from the game now because it seems like you want to do something else that you think might be more lucrative or more fun and more fulfilling for yourself. But playing the game of basketball, I mean, there's just some love and joy that you have to have that I don't know if you can ever have in any other thing. So I hope he made sure he got it all out of his system. But at the same time, at least he'll get to talk about the game that he was so good at playing. And I hope that he does a really good job of giving some insight to the viewers who are watching him on the show to give him to talk about some things from the perspective of a high-level player and what's it like so we can feel his what it's like from a player perspective.
I think as well. Like, is it confirmed that he's even doing games? Is that what he's doing?
Yeah, they said January 2025 he's gonna start doing college games
for.
I think ACC. I would imagine ACC.
For ACC network.
That seems like the natural path. But I read January 2025. I didn't see a network, but I think because I remember when Joe Barry he did the same. Well, he quit in the middle of the season. And I think he walked right into ACC network. Yeah.
And I mean, again, that's ACC network. That's kind of the natural progression for guys going into their college network, regional network, and then expanding from there. So, yeah, I mean, like, and also not just games, but look at us. We sitting here around three mics, and there's just so many different avenues in media now where, to Rich's point, there's just so much opportunity. So it's exciting for him. I'm excited to hear him on the mic for games. I always love listening to players talk the game, listen to how they think the game, what's important to them, and how they pass on their knowledge. So
Rich, obviously you don't got to say names, but is there like media beef out there? Is there a lot of media beef you hear about?
No, not for me. I mean, I've been one of the guys who kind of come up,
Rich in the house, man.
So I mean, like, so I don't feel any beef unless somebody's got some beef with me. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I might be the guy who's perceived as the challenger coming up in the game now, but I don't. I think this has been an industry, unlike in the locker room as a player, that you have a lot of people who are willing to help you. I mean, so when you look at all of the things that you can do and all of the levels that you can achieve, A lot of times you want to have a partner who wants to have a really good show. And if you have a really good show out there, then you really are going to have to work with your partner. You can't have that level of beef. So we all have to make sure that we are going to be portrayed in a good light. So I don't really feel the beef, but at the same time, it's competitive. Everybody wants to climb up. Everybody wants better job slots. Everybody wants to continue to grow in the industry and get better games and more contracts and whatever the case may be. But you can only hope that you can continue to grow in the craft with your talent and show what you can do and that the people like it. That's all that matters.
What's your punchline, man?
Oh, I got a bunch of them. Listen, I'm an old school guy. I'm always going to have a reference to it, but I like to teach the game. When I want people to watch the game, I want to make sure that they understand what's really going on from a coach's perspective, from a player's perspective, from a guy who's been a star, from a player who's been on the bench, or from a guy who's a role player, what you have to do and bring to the situation to make the best choice on the floor. I want that viewer to understand that when they're watching the game that I'm on the call.
So what's your punchline?
And I couldn't tell you. It's not Marv Howard like, yes! 4-3. No, it's not that. If that's what you want, I don't have that. I do like 3-ball corner pocket on the replay. I do like that one. That one is I tell you what, if it's a dunk, I got to say that you're throwing down the hammer. That's
down the hammer.
Yeah, the hammer. Something I'm gonna lean on for sure. Don't steal it, man. You better not steal it. Don't steal it.
I ain't gonna steal it, man. I'm like, man, I ain't no swagger jacket like that, man. But look. Good. You had something? What you got? You got a punchline too? You good?
Nah, I ain't got no punchline, man. I used to just say everything $3 in the corner store, man. You know, I ain't going in the paint with you big fellas. I'm outside. I'm in the corner.
I lied to you. I might steal that one. I like that one, man.
Everything $3 in the corner store.
Yeah, I like that one, man. But look, man, that is all we have for you today. We told you that we are global. We appreciate you, Tat from Japan, tuning in this week. This is the Role Player Podcast live coming at you again. We are here every Monday, so make sure you keep tuning in. We'll keep providing the content. Be sure to follow along and hit the subscribe and the like button below at Role Player Media for Role Player Podcast.
We gotta let the fans know this week. You know, we're working on it, but we might have a pop-up show for the Panathinaikos game. This Thursday that'll be going on in Athens, Greece. I'll be live, so make sure y'all tap in, keep your notifications on. Make sure you get your notifications on. It's going to be a lot of fire, a lot of fun. So yeah, everybody stay tuned. Possibly on Saturday, we might have a live pop-up show, and tap in with us.
Be sure, exactly, like you said, man. But listen, I am Jordan Taylor. That's Anthony Goods. For Richard Hendrix, man, this is the Role Player Podcast. We'll catch y'all next time. Much love.